All right, now we're going to talk about safety protocols. These are the emergencies that we hope never happen, but sometimes they do. So we need to be prepared the best we can for them. So here's kind of the things we're going to talk about: lightning, air quality, concussions, other health concerns, heat illnesses, and injury management. We'll talk lightning first. So, any sport that is an outdoor sport does have to worry about this. If we had a pool, indoor sports, that would be an issue too, but we don't. So, the protocol is very, very, very clear. Whatever you've heard from anyone else, even referees, if it's not this, this is not correct. So, the NFHS and the UHSA protocol is if you see it, you hear it, you need to clear it. So see it or hear it, you need to clear it. Then you wait for 30 minutes after the last lightning strike you saw or heard, then you can resume play. Now, they have a caveat. If you have an app that tracks lightning, such as Lightning app or WeatherBug, then we can kind of keep an eye on it. And if it's within 10 miles, then we need to clear. If it's further than 10 miles out, we keep a really close eye on it and we try to warn you. So we will send texts out to head coaches and anyone else that wants to be on that list that lets you know that lightning's in the area. Okay. So that's as the moment it crosses 10, we are going inside. Now, if it's coming, if we see it's coming quick from 16 down to 11, we probably are going to call it pretty close at 11 just because we know it's on the way. Okay. Now, some coaches say, and I laugh every time, okay, they say, well, it's on the other side of the mountain. I didn't know that lightning had a problem going over or around a mountain because it is coming from the sky. So the mountain makes no difference wherever it's at. So if it's within 10 miles on the other side of the mountain, it still counts. So anytime that we are dealing with lightning, if we see it or hear it, or if we've got an app that we're watching, the most conservative reading on an app is what we're going to go with. So if my phone says something and Madison says something else's and another coach says somebody else's, whoever is the most conservative, meaning the least risk for our athletes, that's the one we're going to follow. So if my phone says 9 miles, but Madison says 11, we go with my phone because it says 9 and we need to get everyone inside. Okay. Now, at games and practices and things like that, we have a designated lightning person. That is always, in our case here at Maple Mountain, unless we're not here for whatever reason, that it falls on the shoulders of the athletic trainers. Okay. We are the designated lightning person, and we are the one that will communicate with the referees and the coaches that lightning is in the area and we need to go inside. Okay. We hate to be the bad guy. I hate dealing with lightning, but it is just what it is. It's just too much of a risk. Okay. So if you hear it come from me, I'm the one that states it, and I will let everyone know. Okay. Or Madison. If neither of us are around, then it falls onto the shoulders of the administration there. Okay, our next topic we're going to talk about is air quality. We always hope that we don't get fires in the area, but you never know. So we have several purple air monitors around us. The closest one is in Sierra Park. It has been a little wishy-washy on working recently. So if that one's not available, there are several others around that we can get great data from. So kind of like the designated lightning personnel, we do have a designated air quality, and that's actually the principal, but he will just go off of what we as athletic trainers tell him. So we use purple air because there are sensors really close to us. And the guide on purple air is really pretty easy because it goes with colors. So you can see here on this particular day that I took a screenshot, we were all within the orange. So we had to follow that specific protocol. Okay. So green means that it's safe for everyone. Yellow means that those with pre-existing could have issues with long exposure. Orange means we need to definitely change the exercise, move it indoors or something like that for someone with sensitivity such as asthma, and they cannot participate outdoors. And then red to maroon, you can kind of see that sliding scale over here. Anything from red to maroon, nobody can participate in outdoor activities. And those have numbers associated with them. So I think it's anything above 150. I think red's 150, but don't quote me on that. Double check on your own. And we want to keep an eye on this. It is real time, so we just constantly refresh the website, and it's just purpleair.com. It's not an app, it's a website. All right, concussions. Unfortunately, we deal with a lot of concussions in the high school setting. So there's a couple ways that we can help to prevent concussions and limit the number that we get. The first thing is it comes down to you guys as coaches. You want to make sure you have careful practice techniques and educate the athletes about correct tackling. We think only football with that, but that could be soccer, way ahead of ball, things like that. Or even, something like drill where we wouldn't think that they'd ever get concussions, maybe how they do a flip and land or something like that, okay? And then, unfortunately, concussions do occur outside of athletics. That is actually my most common concussion is from car accidents because these are high schoolers learning how to drive, and sometimes they don't do a great job. So, if there's a concussion that occurs at all to any of our athletes related to athletics or not, we will treat them and care for them after. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about the UHSAA policy that we follow. But the way that we can have good data on each kid is we actually baseline each individual athlete once per year. And so we use the Sway app on their smartphone. So they're going to need to bring their smartphone charged to the baseline testing so that they are ready to test. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes for the actual test, and then it takes us another 10 to 15 minutes after that to get them into the Register My Athlete system so that they are cleared and ready to go. And so that baseline gives us good data of where their brain is on a normal day without injury so that then we can make the best call when we have a suspected concussion. Once we have a suspected concussion, we're going to care for the concussion a very specific way, and we return them to play a very specific way. So as soon as we suspect a concussion, we rest the athlete, but we don't just send them home or to the locker room. They need to be monitored because it is a brain injury and there could be a brain bleed that could be deadly. And so we want to keep an eye on them and make sure they're not deteriorating. If they are deteriorating, that is an emergency and we are calling 911. Okay. Once they have healed from the concussion, meaning they have no symptoms, they can go to a full day of school without any issues, then we have a very specific return to play. So again, this return to play means that they are working towards becoming fully cleared. They cannot be cleared without going through these. This is state law. Okay, and so it's very easy for us to follow because it is so straightforward and it really protects us from letting an athlete go back before it is safe for them to return. So the 6 stages are, the first one is they have a reintroduction to school and work activities and they can handle those. If they can handle that, then 24 hours later, then we can start to do some light aerobic activity. 24 hours after that, if that handles well, then we can start to get them into some moderate activities, maybe some team drills, things like that, but nothing with impact jarring or contact with anyone else. Then, if all of that goes well, then we make sure that they're still handling their schoolwork well, and then we're going to put them through more sprinting type work. They can start weightlifting at this point. And then stage 5, another 24 hours after that, is they can go to a full practice. After they go to the full practice and the coaching staff has made sure that they can make it through all of the activities of that practice, then they can return to play. So walkthrough does not count as a practice. A JV or a sophomore game doesn't count for a varsity game. So it's very specific on how we have to follow this. And like I said, it is state law. And so we will follow this to a T because it is the best practice for taking care of our athletes. Okay. So to go along with that, we also want to make sure that we understand that any healthcare provider that is going to manage a concussion does have to be concussion trained and concussion specialized. So that's going to be athletic trainers, and that's going to be some doctors, not all doctors. And all doctors that see or deal with concussion are, when they clear an athlete, they're actually clearing the athlete to then go through the return to play with us as the athletic trainer. So they're not clearing them back to play. And so that's something that we try to educate on a lot early on so that the athlete is not disappointed when they realize they have another 5 days before they can actually return to participation. Our next topic we want to talk about is exertional heat illness. So this is rare, but it is unfortunately common enough that we want to prevent it. And luckily, it is 100% preventable with early recognition and treatment. So, what exertional heat illness is, essentially the body is dehydrated, and so they sometimes will go through these stages. We used to say they would go from heat cramps to heat exhaustion to heat stroke, but we find that they kind of jump around a little bit. They may not get any cramping, and sometimes there's heat syncope, so or heat fainting. So what we want to do is watch very closely for the signs and symptoms, as it actually kind of looks similar to a concussion. They might be disoriented, dizzy, nauseous. They might have a hard time communicating. They may look ill or winded or confused or dazed. Their pulse will be rapid but weak. Their blood pressure will be low. They could be super sweaty from exercising. They could also be cool and clammy. So there's a lot of symptoms that we could see. If we suspect that, because it is 100% preventable, that we are going to go for it anytime that there's any question whatsoever. If they've been exercising and we know there's a chance that they are dehydrated, then we are going to do this. So we just submerge them up to their neck in ice water until their core temperature reaches 102 degrees. And that can take several hours. I mean, not several hours, several minutes, upwards of probably 20 to 30 minutes or more. And it will take a lot of ice. So we've got 4 cold tubs, 2 inside the training room and 2 outside the training room, that we can put athletes in at any moment. And then we just add a lot of ice and we swirl it around in there so it stays cool, keeps the athlete cool, and we monitor. They might go unconscious. That's actually very common. So we're going to have somebody kind of hold them so they don't slump down in the water. And then once that body temperature gets down to 102, then we send them to the ER to get checked out. But it is 100% preventable. Every case that we have caught and done this on, the person has survived 100%. So that's really great odds for us. And so we know if we do this, then we're safe. Okay, and now we often think, oh, this is going to be football players in their football pads, but the one case that I was personally involved in was a cross-country runner in the smallest outfit in a shaded park running. So you never know when it's going to happen. We see it often in indoor facilities or wrestling practice. So it's not limited to one particular sport or one particular body size. Everyone's at risk for this. Okay, other concerns that we have that we need to deal with, that we may come in contact with, is asthma, allergies, or diabetes. If you have an athlete who has these issues, we will give you a health concerns printout and then tell you what to look for. And then it's your job as a coach to communicate with the athlete where their medicine is located and how you need to care for them, so that it's available and ready when needed. Okay. So that's an individual basis, and that is something as a coach you need to be aware of. Okay, if an athlete gets injured, which we never like, but we're happy to help take care of, we will happily do it. We've got a beautiful training room to do all of the rehab and care that we can in here. So most things don't need to go see an outside healthcare provider, but if the athlete or the parent wants them to, or we suggest they do, we have to have a clearance note from that healthcare provider before we'll allow them to participate. And often I will still put them through my own return to play, because if you go to let's say a pediatrician, and they look at an ankle sprain and they say, okay, you've waited 3 weeks and you're ready to go back. Well, the athlete probably hasn't done any rehab to strengthen, and they're going to go back out and re-sprain it. And so I might say, let's take a few more days and rehab that before we let you out on the field. So again, it's similar to concussions. If they get cleared by somebody, it means they're cleared to come to us to get the final say. We are happy to tape athletes, but we only do it when it's medically necessary for that person. And we expect coaches will also follow that policy. Coaches should not tape unless they have permission from the athletic trainer to tape that athlete, because that coach is now taking on the liability if something goes wrong with that tape, or if that athlete should not be participating. If you're going to a host location and an athlete needs to be taped, we suggest trying to get the athlete taped before leaving from one of us. But if that is impossible, then we can ask the host athletic trainer to tape. But we will not tape athletes without permission of the home athletic trainer. And so I expect that athletic trainer to also not tape without calling me and making sure that they're safe. We will try to provide an injury list to you at the beginning of your practices, either emailed or printed. If you have an athlete who is out or has some restrictions, do not let that athlete participate until you get that notice from us. We are happy to respond if you text us or call us if we haven't gotten you an injury report out quick enough. But please do not let them participate based on them saying they're okay. We know that unfortunately everyone lies, so we're gonna err on the side of caution on that.